All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here, talking real music, real psychology, real mathematics, real geology, and doing it in real time. Not really. For people like you and me. So, the music aspect of this channel, I wish I could just talk about great bands making great music. I feel led. I feel led. I feel like there's a bigger thing going on right now. Yeah. So I have to go where my brain and my spirit takes me. All right. And right now, I'm looking at people like Eric Clapton, who have been completely isolated because they have an opinion that runs contrary to the prevailing narrative. And what's weird is there are millions and millions of people who agree with Eric Clapton, millions, and they don't have any voice. They don't have a major rock magazine who is running interference and says that, yes, Eric Clapton is now bankrolling all of the people. Well, if there's none of us and we're all a bunch of freaks, how do you bankroll that many people? How is it worth bankrolling? But they use that term like Eric Clapton has a devious plan up his sleeve. He plans on playing concerts for people who don't agree with the government. And it's a government rock publication. That's what it is. Rolling Stone. Hey, we're for government rock. We sponsor government rock. If you believe that what the government tells you, then we're going to promote you. If you don't, then we're just gonna flush you down the toilet, and we're gonna string together a narrative about your past. We're gonna somehow try to put it together with something you said recently. We're gonna show that you're a fraud and make up stories about concerts that you play where you say you don't want to be with a bunch of people who've been discriminated against because of their QR code status. We're gonna say that you're not even following through with that. And then, of course, that's a lie and an untruth, and they don't do a retraction. They basically say, well, the venue did that, but still, it's on him because he said he wouldn't play anywhere. I mean, these people are changing the rules in midstream. I told you the story about my friend goes to a concert. They tell him he's got to have a QR code, even though it's nowhere to be found in the literature. Right? You would think that this would be easy. You show up with your tickets, they scan your tickets, you go in, right? But no, they tell him he needs to have a certificate of another kind, paperwork, and he doesn't. So he and his friends begin to leave, and they say, "Oh, wait, no. Yeah, you can come in." Because guess what? At that point, with nothing on the tickets or in the literature or in the parking lot, even if it was in the parking lot, that would be still too late. You could go up and say, "Hey, I want a refund. This was not," and I would go right to the manager if they start giving you any grief. See, here's where we could beat this. If we all simultaneously said, "Nah, we're not going to do this. We're not going to comply." You've heard, peaceful non-compliance. I'm 100% right there. See, what they all want us to do is 100% comply. And so they can move the goalposts again, like they do in other countries like Israel and the UK and Gibraltar and in a lot of different places. They can keep moving those goalposts and say, well, look, yeah, you did 2, but now you need a 3rd one. And you're like, what? In less than a year, I need 3? What is this? Is this like from Jupiter? I mean, what are we dealing with here? And it isn't that bad, but yet they're making you think it's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel like crap. And that's how I view it right now. So when I look at just the Eric Clapton situation, or maybe Travis Tritt, or a few of these people who have been bold, John Cooper from the band Skillet, who just put it out there saying, hey, I don't agree with this constant narrative. And I have looked at you can't look at all the data. You can't look at, they won't let you see half of it. So when you go off their grid, see, they want to control you at so many levels. First of all, there's only certain media that you can watch. And they keep foisting, watch this show, watch this news, watch this. And you're like, no, no, no. And they still come at you with more advertising. I have a Roku, right? And you get these little pop-ups on the side, you know, on the screensaver, and it's blinking. Yeah, you need to watch the story about how bad Donald Trump is. And again, for the record here, I'm not a Trump sycophant. I'm not. But there's never a blinking thing saying Hunter Biden's laptop discovered and sick, twisted things are on there. No, that didn't even, who's Hunter Biden? What's that all about? Never heard of that, right? I mean, we all know about Let's Go Brandon too, but it's just, and these people, they're like, well, that's what they said. They said, let's go Brandon. So you know you're living inside a world that they are creating for you. And this is a warm-up. So what's happening to Eric Clapton and to these other musicians who've basically figured this out for themselves and said, no, there's something even larger going on than just the QR code and well-placed stories about how Robert Cray thinks that Eric Clapton is the R word. Yeah. And he didn't say it, but he said, you know, he's extreme. He used the word slave in the wrong text, in the wrong context. And so I cannot be his friend anymore. What? You mean, how many years? 35, 40 years worth of friendship? And you're just, okay. So none of that stuff that you guys did before, hanging out together, probably having meals together. I mean, I don't know how close those two guys were, but I know that Robert Cray was in at least one documentary saying some really nice things about Eric Clapton. I guess those things don't matter anymore. And weeks ago, I told everybody in a video that they were going to deconstruct Eric Clapton and they would have to work harder to deconstruct him. I just watched that Beatles documentary, right? Get Back. They wanted Clapton to replace George Harrison when he walked out. They're like, well, maybe we can get Eric Clapton, you know? And I'm just like, wow. And I'm sure they would have just destroyed that too. Like, the Beatles never, ever wanted Eric Clapton to be. There it is, though. Disney put it out there. How come, you know, that was an editing problem. They didn't get to the editors. They had 150 hours worth of footage. They could have taken Clapton out of that and not praised him at all, but it must have already been done. And it's a true story. And who else were they going to replace George with, right? Who's a better guitarist than George Harrison? Eric Clapton, maybe at the time, Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, that's kind of it. So Jimmy was off just doing really well. And so I don't think that would have worked out. But, you know, maybe the Beatles are racist because they didn't think of Jimi Hendrix before Clapton. See how this all just works and doesn't work? It's a mess. It's a train wreck. So you're going to deconstruct a guy who could have been the guitar player in the Beatles, at least briefly. We find that out, and yeah, he's still a schmuck. I don't like him. You know, he's anti-thing because he had a bad reaction to the other thing, and he doesn't want to go back to Walgreens or CVS or any of the other wonderful pharmacies in the UK. Do they have CVS in the UK? I'm thinking they probably do, because all of these corporations are basically all entwined with the government web. It's basically, when you, here's what I think, right? You go to Walmart, you're going to a government store. When you go to CVS, you're going to a government store. And there are so many. Any big corporation is essentially a government store. And, you know, they follow all the guidelines. They put signs on their doors saying, we follow these CDC guidelines here at this store. And you're like, okay, well, what about your own management? What do they think? You know, you could easily commission a group of people to sit down with you and your management team and devise a strategy that's customer friendly rather than going to, government lockdowns, because that's basically, or gee, wear this on your head to smother your breathing, because that's always a good thing to do, right? And we've been doing it for 2 years, and people are just like, oh, well, this is what I do. I don't question anything. I just do it. So it's really interesting to see this all playing out and seeing who's going to be your friend and who's not going to be your friend, because they're worried about money. They're worried about ticket sales. They're worried about sponsorships. They're worried about maybe other friendships that they're going to lose. I mean, they can kick you overboard. But with Clapton, see, the deconstruction has to go for a much longer period of time, because he's a beloved figure for the most part, but they're successfully, I mean, I read those comments and people are like, I used to have that Journeyman album, but I'm just going to ditch it. It got me through college or high school or whatever, but yeah, I'm just going to throw it away. Wow. That's, and that's the kind of weirdness and the hive mind mentality that we're in right now. I'm not all that keen on promoting Robert Cray right now, so it works both ways. But see, I'm not a big media outlet. I'm just an independent guy who's got a few opinions, who gets a couple thousand views and thinks, hey, good job today, man. Pat on the back. Nice work. But these people, they'll do some video on whatever platform and 5 million people will see it. And they'll be debunking everything I say. He's crazy. He's wearing a tinfoil hat. He has no idea what he's talking about. That's the thing that happened with Rand Paul, if you remember, with Dr. Emperor. Senator, you really have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, well, tell us, little emperor. What is it? What is the truth? Please tell us, other than you are the science, because that's all we got. We got, if you distrust me, then you don't believe in science. Really? I don't remember reading that in the textbooks anywhere. So this is where we're at, because we've got a mainstream figure, one of the biggest ones ever, and they can't deny that. They're trying, well, Hendrix is better. Okay, maybe Hendrix was better, but then you got Clapton, Eddie Van Halen. You've got some big fish out there, right? And Clapton's right in the school of fish. And it's, how do you take him out? Well, you got to go all the way back to 1969. He said some bad things about Jimi Hendrix. Look, Hendrix went to England and became successful. And that probably drove Clapton a little crazy at the time, because he was trying to be successful in his home country, and he ended up being more successful in the States. And then he goes back, and it's one of them, had nothing to do with race or anything like that. It was just like timing and, this is my hometown. My people here don't seem to like me, A prophet is most disliked in his home territory. And then, of course, Hendrix had to come back to the United States, but he was always huge over in the UK. He just exploded over there. All right. So let's revise history, though, to make it all like string together nicely. He said some mean things in the 70s, supposedly, all of this stuff. And you can apologize 100,000 times, but if you have the wrong viewpoint, your apology doesn't work. It's crazy how that is. I can say it over and over again. I didn't mean it. It was out of context. Hey, if Alec Baldwin, right, can fire off a weapon and people are sympathetic that he killed someone, and he goes up there and he says, I didn't really fire this weapon, and do you think I would do such a thing? And people are more sympathetic to Alec Baldwin than they are to Eric Clapton. And Eric Clapton didn't kill anyone. He didn't shoot anyone. He just said, I went to my restaurant, like my doctor told me to go to that restaurant, and I got really bad service and had food poisoning. That's a kind of a roundabout way of avoiding the actual problem, but you know what I'm saying. So if you go to the restaurant and you have bad service and your food makes you sick, why would you go back to that restaurant? And I think you would warn other people about doing the same thing. All right. This isn't rocket science here. Or as George W. Bush used to say, a rocket surgeon You don't have to be, I don't have to be a rocket surgeon to figure this out. We've had some real winners as president of the United States. We haven't had the brightest bulbs on the tree for a very long time, dating back probably to George Bush Sr., right? But they're all just in it to just like be overseers. Trump was a little different. People freaked out. And I'm not even that big again right now into Trump, but he was an outlier. He was slightly different. And people are like, oh no, the status quo has been changed. And how does that have to, what does that have to do with any of this? Well, everything has to do with keeping the status quo, right? Trump steps out of line a little bit. He's not saying the right things. Crap, we got to get him out of there. And we got to install Brandon, because Brandon, he doesn't even have to talk. They can just move him around. They give him things to say. Even if he can't say them, he's still the status quo. They can control what he says. And then, you know, if things don't work out for him health-wise, then I'm sure, by the way, that he hasn't done that. Because if he had done the thing, it would have been like, and I'm not, it's not funny. I'm just telling you that I doubt. Maybe he did. I bet you it was probably like saline solution. That would be my guess. But, you know, I wasn't there. I can't confirm it, but it makes sense to me. You know what doesn't make sense to me? The persecution of a good man based on stringing a few words and things together over, I don't know, like a 55-year career that or more, and you're just going to judge him based on that. That's just fantastic, isn't it? Just makes you all warm and fuzzy inside where we're going with all of this. And that's the other big question. When does it end? Nobody knows. And they keep telling you, oh, you got to get your QR code for next summer if you want to go see REO Sticks in Loverboy. You can get your QR code now. And what if it's different then? What if things are different? Oh, no, it's not going to be different because it's just going to continue on forever. And this is going to be the new normal. You want to go see a concert? And amen for Eric Clapton, Travis Tritt, a few people out there who are saying, no, everybody can go to my concert. This is stupid. There are some crazy stats coming out of the United Kingdom right now based on what happened in the month of November. Absolutely crazy stats. I have a link that I actually got off of a platform that's kind of underground a little bit. I might have to post it somewhere or talk about it maybe on Rumble or something, but it's a total holy crap Batman. This would be like, okay, shut everything down, and I don't mean lock it down, I mean shut down the program. But no one's going to do that. We've got another one. Don't worry about the Dodge Omni thing. We've got another one. We knew ahead of time that Dodge was going to make the Omni again after what, a 31-year-old break. They hadn't done it for 31 years, and here we are. And we knew ahead of time, so we had a big stockpile to go up against the Dodge Omni. Great, that's awesome. I am so happy our government knows what's going to happen before it even happens. Isn't that a little bit kind of flag raising, red flag raising, kind of Bueller? Anybody? All right, so I'm done with this video, and no, I haven't been drinking. I need to have a drink or two. But no, I haven't been drinking. I am just completely fed up with the hive mind. And those people who think that's all you can think about is get in the hive mind and think like us. Don't have an original thought. Don't say anything critical. And by the way, don't have any fun. That's another aspect to all of this. Be miserable as we are miserable. I think they're not only miserable, but I think they're regretting their decisions.